Here is a 2024 Infiniti QX60 Luxe with leather appointed seats. What's the difference between the trims? What's the difference between last year and this year? I'm Anthony from Hawkeye Rides. We're going to start off with different trim options, which this is almost the sweet spot because all of them are going to be getting LED headlights in daytime runnings. However, adaptive LED headlights, it's an option in this. So you don't have to go to the sensory and pay an extra $4,000 or $5,000. So what are you getting with the $5,000? On the exterior, you're not going to be getting a huge difference, except you are getting upgraded wheels, 20-inch opposed to the 18-inch. The sensory and the autograph will both share a 20-inch wheel. And when you're also in this trim, depending on colors, the lower, you're going to be getting some gloss black elements, which I like this a little bit more because it gives a sporty image to the front fascia, because you have a wide grille, it's in your face, and it spirals out into the headlamp assembly with the chrome strip over the top. Me personally, I've blacked out most of the front grille to get it a little bit more sporty style, which when you go into the autograph, the top, meaning the A pillars all the way back, will be in obsidian black, so it gives a nice two-tone to this particular color, in which you have that on the air vent pocket here, front and rear parking sensors, and you get the 360-degree digital camera when you get to the pure level. Underneath the hood is going to house the 3.5-liter V6, and we're pumping out 295 horsepower with 270 pound-feet of torque, paired to a 9-speed automatic transmission, achieving 21 mpgs for the city and 26 mpgs for the highway. This is not the all-wheel drive, which will unlock 6,000 pounds of towing. And when you go up to the autograph, you'll get the captain's seats as well. We do get the gloss black elements on a part of the side view mirror, chrome trims that's going to be on the door handles, and the lower will just have a matte black. And these mud flaps are actually an upgrade. You're going to spend about $500 to get them, but it keeps a little bit more of a rugged profile on the side. I do like how the gloss black elements go all the way to the rear, so it looks a little bit longer visually than it actually is. This is longer than the prior gen that it replaced a couple years back, but it's not a significant difference in that. The same suspension setup, same brakes, and in the rear, they take the gloss black elements to the next level, which I'm not a huge fan of this, but this is where the exhaust would be. You only get one exhaust and it's tucked underneath. Because it's gloss black, I don't mind it so much. Mine is more of the same color as this, in which it stands out. It doesn't look as performance driven as it should. LED taillights, I do like the light structure that is set up and how it's a little bit more round in the back. It's not a coupe design, still traditional. Wheeler keeps it a little bit more sporty with a power lift gate. The sensory, you can get the kick or motion to open, going into 14.5 cubic feet of storage, 12-volt charger underneath the floor. Gets storage, and you'll have some dividers that go in between here. You can split fold the third row bench at a 60-40 split in the back. It's going to increase cargo to 41.6 cubic feet. Unfortunately, to put the second row down, you have to come back here. In order to do so, pull the lever, folds down flat, maxing cargo to 75.4 cubic feet. We need to go inside, start this baby up so you can hear that exhaust now. Twelve-way power seat adjustment, leather seats, heated and ventilated because this is the Luxe. Otherwise, standard is heated, memory for the driver. Headroom and leg room. The QX60 is a wide vehicle for the front occupants. A bit of a driver-focused setup with the wall that comes into play. Gloss black elements will surround the two-tier with the aluminum inlays on the top tier. No heads-up display. That does come in the autograph. Digital screens is the thing for the QX60, and we have Apple CarPlay that is wireless, Android Auto, Sirius XM, AM, FM, streaming Bluetooth audio. The thing that I dislike, or a big con for me, is you can see right here. It doesn't cover the whole screen. I have to use this second part of the screen for something completely else, unless I go into the maps for Infiniti, in which when you click the map, it will be the whole screen. I wish that this was the same way for Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. Put it into reverse, and this is the reason why you do not go to the Luxe. You get a 360-degree reverse camera, full trajectory. You can also click onto the button here, and you can see it while you're driving under around 5 miles per hour. We do have driver mode select, which will change from personal, sport, standard, and eco. And you have the auto hold feature as well, with the rotary knob that you can do everything instead of using the simple touch, which I would personally just use the touch screen because that's what it's there for, and you can see the pinch and the swipe. Tri-climate control settings, QI wireless charger, USB ports, and you have the cool little razor shifter with the contrast stitching a pass-through, which makes it a little bit more easier for the front occupants. And it's going to be soft to touch. That opens up. It's a deep storage pocket with a 12 volt, some card holders, and an area for a pin and some more cards. Leather wrapped steering wheel. You get the soft premium when you go up the tier. Adaptive cruise control with lane keep assist, which you'll just push this and it'll do the steering for you, but it will also indicate whenever you need to hold the steering wheel, which is pretty quick. It's actually not as good as some of the rivals. Digital gauge cluster. You can go through an array of information here. Unfortunately, it does not give you a navigation other than turn by turn in words, so you're not going to get this actual navigation here. One cool feature you can do on the gauge cluster, when you click onto this, you can change the way your odometer reads out. But it kind of looks a little bit more old instead of sporty, so I would probably leave it on this. Door panel is going to get the soft materials, and I like how they do it pretty much everywhere, even on these lower trims, which if you go to the Luxe, it'll be the same. So even going up to the Autograph, it'll still be soft. It's just you're going to get the quilted inlays that will be found on the dashboard right in this area. They don't put it all over, unfortunately. You will not get the premium Bose sound system, but you get a large storage pocket in the door that can hold basically a flask. I've been able to put about 5 or 6 16.9 ounce water bottles, a large panel moonroof with the auto dimming rear view mirror, and the key fob for the QX60. For the second row headroom and leg room, storage behind both of the front seats, third climate control, USB, and a 12 volt cup holders with an armrest. You can also adjust this forward. It'll be a little bit more tight, and you can recline these back to make it a little bit more comfortable for the second row. It wouldn't be so much for the third row. The door panel is going to have the manual sunshades. You get the aluminum look inlays, one touch up and down for the windows with contrast stitching, soft to touch, with about 2 bottle holders in the door pocket. Sliding over, the rails is really the issue here because they got this little lip that comes out in which it pushes your feet forward, but the rails in the front is not bad. As for butt and shoulder space, it's pretty good because it's a wide vehicle. Headroom's going to be a little bit more tight because the panel doesn't come all the way back here, in which it gives you this little bit of a lip. So if you're over 6 foot tall, sitting into the center, I would suggest go to the third row. To enter into the third row, push the button here. It's gonna adjust, makes it a pretty easy fit. Even though they're not captain seats, you will still get USB, 2 cup holders, air vents in the ceiling on both sides, but you're not going to get the USB on the driver's side. Headroom, it's not too bad. It's a little bit tighter, but you can recline these seats back to make it a little bit easier. And you have a little storage divider here for the 2 seats. As for leg space, just gonna slide over here to show you. If you're about 6'3", you're gonna be a bit cramped. 295 horsepower, what does it look like? This is it. The exhaust note will filter in when you're hitting higher RPMs, 270 pound-feet of torque, naturally aspirated V6. That's one thing that I do like that Infiniti incorporates with their vehicles. Even Nissan, it's basically the same exact engine. They just detune it, in which when you go into Nissan for the Pathfinder, you can get 2 different options. If you go to the Rock Creek, you'll get an increase of horsepower and torque. For this vehicle, some of the pros right off the top is when you're in the pure trim, you're getting almost every amenity you need. It is $6,000 more or less of an upgrade over the Luxe, which is just under $50,000. Bumping it up to the Sensory is kind of the sweet spot though, because it's going to add the massage seats. You're also going to add the rear plug or USB port for both sides, not just one. So they take out a few little things. It's not a huge difference. Going into the Autograph, why did I choose it? Is because it is the semi-aniline leather appointed seats for the first and second row. Third row, you're not even getting leather in any of them. They do like a Syntec or a fake leather or a leatherette, which is fine because most people don't typically use the third row that much and it is a bit tight. As for rivals, the Acura MDX will be the best one to start off with. I like that you can make the second row where it's more or less captain seats because you can remove that seat, but then the Honda Pilot goes a step forward in which you can store that seat in the cargo. You can't do that in the Acura. You have more cargo capacity inside here plus the pass-through, so you have a lot more storage here. 10 cup and bottle holders found throughout the interior of the cabin, and believe me, I personally own a 23. You can fit a lot. I mean, 4 or 5 16.9 ounce bottles sometimes I put on the side if I'm going on a long trip, which I've taken it over 1,000 miles. I have the all-wheel drive, and I've changed the wheels to aftermarket, putting 22-inch. I don't recommend changing the wheels because it does dramatically change the ride and the sound deadening, which is ultra quiet. Bose upgraded sound system, 17 speakers, you get that in the Sensory, and it goes up the tier. You're not going to get it here. You're going to get the standard 9 speakers. But because it's about $3,000–4,000 difference, you're already at $55,000. I understand you're probably like, I don't want to spend 60 grand. Maybe work a deal. I'm sure they'll give it to you for probably 58 grand out the door. And then you get everything more or less that you would almost get in the Autograph, excluding a few features. One of the big cons that I have is the towing drops to 3,500 pounds if you do not option all-wheel drive. If you get off all-wheel drive, you get 6,000 pounds, which is an increase from the prior gen. However, it's only 1,000 pounds more. They did change from a CVT to a 9-speed, and it is a complete difference in the ride. You're over a second quicker 0 to 60, and you're probably thinking that's not a huge difference. It kind of is, because now you're actually passing Toyota Grand Highlander or the Lexus TX350. It's not necessarily a comparable vehicle to this because it's longer, and for Mazda, the CX90, it's going to be a little bit longer than this, and it's going to be tighter for the third row than this one is, in which towing is also less. Also, ground clearance in this is not going to be nowhere near the best though, because you can even go to Subaru and the Ascent is going to have over 8 inches of clearance, but it's going to be a little bit more tight and cramped. One thing that is good about the Infiniti line is you don't feel cramped on a long journey, but the seats are not as plush in trims underneath the Autograph. And some other pros about the vehicle is you get the dual pane windows for the front, acoustic and UV ray for the front window and the side windows. And again, as you spend more money, if you're wanting to go over 60 grand, you get a lot of vehicle for the price. You also have auto high beam, which is a nice thing. The lights are bright enough. If you're considering changing from the first gen QX60, night and day difference with visibility from the headlamps and also for the high beams. The big problem that I have is I did the over-the-air updates, and now when I get off the Bluetooth with the wireless Apple CarPlay, it does a ch or a and it's basically the radio. It does this whether I'm on the phone, whether I text, or I'm using the GPS, in which as soon as the voice recognition goes away, it activates the sound system. I hate hearing it because out of nowhere it does that. Also, when you hang up the phone, sometimes the audio sound system will just turn on. It's a little bit annoying. Infiniti needs to clean that up. And they also need to integrate where the navigation is in the gauge cluster, because if you go into the Nissan Ariya, all the screens you can see navigation. Nothing like a little dynamics. Here we go. And the paddle shifts, I wish they were not plastic. As for a sweet spot vehicle, if you go all in, you're gonna be near 70 grand. If you go all out, meaning fully empty, you're under 50 grand. So when you're thinking about the power that you get in the towing capacity that you can max, plus all the technology, and you get massage seats if you go up to those higher tier prices, it is almost impossible to get something the same cost. Going into BMW or Mercedes, forget about it. It's going to cost $10,000 to $20,000 more. Yes, you're getting more performance, but when you're thinking about that extra price, the savings come back to Infiniti, plus you're getting the same warranty and the service. For me, I've had the vehicle for over 10 years. This is my third Infiniti, and all of which they come and pick up the vehicle, drop me off a loaner, all for $50, $60 oil change. Now, the oil change price, I have heard going into other states can be over $100, in which it's still cheaper than Mercedes and BMW. It's not necessarily the same quality, but the longevity and the services is definitely going to be the least expensive, and you have more amenities for the value. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. Check out the next video, merchandise, website, and Instagram. Leave a comment and a like.